Bruce said there was over 200, but that's fine. Okay, so it's 7:30. Good evening, everyone. And once again, thank you for going the extra mile to come into this only 6 days after the first off season. I know we also have some folks who had trouble signing in, two chat boxes to that effect. That excludes myself, and again, I'm sure others. So um, when our committee met, and this was one of the nights, we're looking for maybe kind of a little bit of a different topic. So I put together a PowerPoint, which is, I think, at least theoretically, kind of broad based, and it's called the complete official checking the boxes. So, Steve, if you could pull that up just so folks have kind of a visual reference.
Sure, 1 second.
Yeah, thanks. So, kind of put this together. For a long time, I've had certain thoughts, as I think everybody does, about what you really need to do to be a really good official. I see Eddie Camp on here. I doubt if anybody on here accomplished what Eddie accomplished and is still accomplishing in the world of football. But I think everybody has goals and aspirations, and so I developed this thing called the complete official, checking the boxes. And in my opinion, there's a lot of boxes you got to check to be really good at this. And perhaps we've overlooked that. Maybe society in general, or the officiating community, I should say, might have overlooked that or overlooks that a little bit today. But at any rate, that's kind of the broad based here tonight. So we have a little bit of video, and but let's go to the next sheet on the PowerPoint, Steve. Okay, the total package, and these are just some things that I think, some criteria, if you will. I'd just like you to all read those over, the little bullet points there. I think there's 7 listed all together. Um, and these are things we're going to kind of stress and emphasize during our meeting tonight, but and not to be down to anyone, talk down to anyone, but the total package. Yeah, if you don't know the rules, you're going to have a very difficult time as an official, and this is something, frankly, that I think has suffered. Um, this is just my experience. I'm not speaking for anyone else. There might be some uh, agreement here, but I think in many cases today, because of video and just the time demands that life puts on all of us, it is my opinion that officials today tend not to read the rule book or really study the rule book. And when I started years ago, that was stressed to me like you really got to know the rules. And I also believe that knowing the rules increases your confidence. I think also there's a mentality out there, well, I'm not the referee, so I don't have to know the rules. And uh, any approach like that would certainly violate the term the complete official. Um, so it goes without saying, but nonetheless, I would ask each of you who are serious about football officiating, and that most certainly includes the high school level. I would ask each of you to try to spend 5, 10 minutes a week in the off season in the rule book. I know that sounds crazy, probably, but you would be amazed at the knowledge you'll gain of certain rules. And just even if you just, say on a winter night, read 5 minutes of Rule 2 definitions. Another night, Rule 7, the passing game, whatever the specific scenario is, it will greatly increase your rules knowledge. And it doesn't matter if you're relatively new, if you've been around a long time. Something that I pride myself on to this day is staying in the rule book year round. I probably don't do it as much as I'd like, but I do it at some point, probably at least 4, 6 times a month. Read something in a rule book that just kind of refreshes my memory as, oh yeah, I remember this or whatever. So please think about that. Mechanics, and I don't know if Bob Masucci's on tonight, but of course we have what I believe is the best high school manual written in the country, that Bob is the editor of, the NJFOA 6-man manual. Tremendous amount of information in there. I mean, tremendous. If anybody ever goes through it, line for line and stuff, it can't help but plant some seeds in your mind that go a long way towards making you a complete official. Uh, Coachability and your mindset. There's no doubt in my mind, no pun intended, folks, but there's no doubt in my mind that the best officials are those who are coachable, just like a player in a sport, and also have a mindset which basically says, I don't know everything. Please teach me. Please help me. Please instruct me. And it is my strongest opinion those things are overlooked a lot. And we all know people, we all know officials who are not coachable, and their mindset is such that they can't learn anything because they know everything. Those people will never be as good as they can be, and I suppose that's okay if that's their prerogative. That individual official, I think you're cheating the game and hurting the game, but nonetheless, the coachability factor is absolutely critical to good officials. And again, I saw Eddie Camp on here tonight. I can assure you, folks, till his last snap in the NFL, he was still learning, still growing, still making an effort to improve. And if we all do that, it assists each of us exponentially. The complete official has interpersonal people skills. You cannot officiate football or any other sport for that matter if you don't have good interaction, the ability to interact interpersonal skills with other human beings, whether it be coaches, other officials, certainly players, athletic directors, whatever it is. And something that I steal a lot of things from people that I've read about. John Wooden was a legendary basketball coach at UCLA. And one of the things that I stole from him, I had the privilege of coaching high school basketball for 13 years. And whenever we were a visiting team, at the end of the game, before we left the locker room, I absolutely demanded, I didn't ask, I demanded our players leave that locker room just as it was before when we walked in there before the game. And that meant all the towels were in a corner, the showers were all turned off, the toilets were all flushed, the faucets, little things like that. But that is also part of a people skill situation. And you'd be amazed how much people like custodians appreciate that. And look, we all have different jobs and different occupations in our lives. But I was taught a long time ago by my father and my mother that if you treat everyone with dignity, and you know what that really is? They never used the words interpersonal, but that's what it is. So all the years I taught school at a school in Pennsylvania called Lehighton Area High School, I made it a thing every single day. I would stop in and say hello to this one custodian. I had one of his children in class, but I would always do that. And when I retired, the guy gave me like a really nice gift. I didn't even think anything of it, that anything would come of it, but it was really nice. And he said to me, he goes, Jim, you're about the only teacher that talks to me every day. Thank you for that. I never even thought about it, but officiating is an interpersonal game and you interact with a lot of people. So the next time you walk into a building, come this August or September, and you see a custodian, hey man, thanks for working. Good to see you again. How was your summer? Whatever. People appreciate that a great deal. And it makes you complete as an official, those kind of things. Okay. I think complete officials, and again, I'm stealing this from Coach Nick Saban, one of his favorite sayings, and I heard him say it in person 2 years ago this month in February of 2023 when he came to Bethlehem, Pennsylvania to work at a clinic, a coach's clinic called the Nike Coach of the Year Clinic. The first thing he said is if you don't adapt, you die. You have to be willing to adapt because things are always changing. And certainly that's true in football. It's most certainly true in football officiating. Um, Look at an old time film on TV, an old NFL film, and you'll see the short wings. They're literally right next to the tight end. And a lot of times the team didn't even have a split end or a flanker, and everything is really compressed. And the officials were on top of everything. Imagine if you tried to officiate a high school football game without adapting today. You couldn't do it. It's impossible. So the complete official continues to learn. He or she is always looking to get better, to learn something, to pick up on something. Uh, every time we learn something, we get better. And I think it's very true that a lot of us have seen a lot of things, but none of us have seen everything. And I think You have to have that mindset. I want to keep learning. I want to keep getting better. And then lastly, the complete official has common sense, which, without getting philosophical, is largely overlooked in American life today, I think, just in general. It's almost like a lot of people have lost or never thought about things that are just common sense. And the really good officials still possess a high level of common sense. So take a look at those seven things, and then we're going to go to the next slide, Steve, and then we'll go to the play that I've alluded to. So, but go ahead. You can, yeah. All right. So, do I genuinely care about my performance? Now, we're going to look at a play that happened on December 14th, 2024. So, it's about 2 months and a week or so ago. This was a Division III playoff game. That's not important. What is important is what you're seeing right there. Do I genuinely care about my performance? And we're going to take a look at a play, and we're really going to peel the onion back and really break it down. And it doesn't matter if you're quote unquote a high school official only, that's fine. Or if you're small college, it doesn't matter. This play here uh, is almost the antithesis of being a complete official. And it's a failure of seven people. Um, we'll probably look at the play more than once, and I expect the chat box maybe might blow up, and that's okay. We're not here to criticize, but I'll tell you what, in all of my life of officiating, I'm not sure that I've ever encountered a play that is a bigger free lesson. And just as fate would have it, this coming Friday and Saturday, we're running our annual spring clinic for our Division III group and our applicants. And this is going to be the first play I show on Friday afternoon. And I have every belief it will get everyone's attention. So, Steve, if you can go to the play and just stop it, and I'll kind of set the scene for everybody once we go to the play. Okay, so and just freeze it right here. So here's the situation, folks. Okay, you can see here the score is 24-21, and you can also see it's the fourth quarter, and you can also see there's 5.2 seconds remaining in the game. The team in white is called Bethel College. They're from Minnesota, and the team in the red or maroon is Susquehanna University from Selinsgrove, Pennsylvania. And as fate would have it, I was at this game, and it happened on Saturday, December 14th. And what you're going to see in the aftermath of it is literally impossible to explain. The whole thing takes about 5 minutes and 14 seconds. I only know that because I timed it when I watched it over. I knew it seemed like an eternity. I was actually in the press box and I had an 020. This crew is a seven-person crew. It doesn't really matter, but they're from Ohio. And again, that really doesn't matter. But the game is coming down to this play. The team behind has the ball on the plus 30-yard line. And with 5.2 seconds, they have no timeouts left. And they probably need to score a touchdown on this play. Or they could have tried a long field goal. It was a very windy day, so they chose not to do that. They're going for the whole thing right now. They're going to win the game or lose the game on this play. So, Steve, we can run it back and then with the ability to go back and look at certain aspects of it. But let's start just looking at the play for the first time to give everyone a visual of this situation. Okay. And we see here, we can stop there. Okay. We see the kid throws a really nice pass. The kid catches it about a yard in the end zone. And you see here that it's the field judge. He's going up with the touchdown. You can also see, jubilation by White, and we'll see a little more of that. The line judge is coming down, looking behind him. I'm not, he hustled down. I don't think he did what Eddie Camp teaches about snapping your head, but nonetheless, the field judge is in great position, signals touchdown, and everyone thinks that, okay, Bethel is now leading 27 to 24. And go ahead, Steve.
Hey Jim, was that coming through choppy?
I'm sorry, Steve.
Was the video coming through a little choppy?
It was pretty clear. I mean, I don't know. I've seen choppier. I don't know. I think it was clear enough to everyone can see the kid completed a 30-yard touchdown pass. But
I'm just gonna try something real quick to see if I can get it a little bit better.
sure, that's fine. Yeah, I mean, you're at the controls. So
Because it was choppy on my end too, which is weird.
for those of you that
It was
haven't seen
choppy,
this, you could also YouTube it. And again, there's a lot of backstories to this, and I'll try to fill you in as best I can. But here's the play again. Okay. So
It might be the video clip then.
that's pretty good. So, all right, go ahead, Steve. Keep it going a little bit. You'll begin to see what happened. So, White celebrating. The back judge is going to throw a flag. Now, I know we only have 7 in Jersey and the back judge in the semis and finals this year. All right, there's a penalty on the ground. There's a flag. Now, you see your kid without a helmet. Go back to that, Steve, a little bit. Okay, there's a kid in white here. He's an offensive lineman who, as he runs down the field, what happened was he finds out that there's a penalty upfield on white. So this kid gets all pissed off and he throws his helmet. Now, the clock stopped at 0, actually. The clock did correctly run out. I don't know why it showed up that way, but trust me, I was there. The clock absolutely ran out. And Jimmy Eisenman, I understand it. The clock hit 0. Now, maybe it's not superimposed with what we're saying here. The clock expired. I was there. Okay, so, but that's a good pickup on your part. And as Bruce said, that's not the actual game clock. But at any rate, we have a flag way upfield, which, as it turned out, was the first and only offensive holding call of the game. We're not here to debate whether it was good or bad, but there's a whole lot more to fill in about this. So, Steve, we have a holding call way up front. We got this kid here, 68, who takes his helmet off and throws it down. We have a flag for that. Now, here's the referee. You see the flag at the 37-yard line. He threw the hold, okay? And why they're getting together here, I mean, we have, all right, that's what he called the hold there, okay? Some would argue it was there. Some would argue it wasn't. Again, we're not going to debate that. That's not the purpose of this. This is more about, do you care about your performance? So now watch the referee. And Steve, when he starts walking towards the camera, stop it. You see the referee holding the ball? And all right, stop it here, Steve. Okay. I know we have a lot of referees on this call. I saw Dave Parfit's name on here. I see Jerry Picasio, Dave Race. I'm sure there's others. We got a lot of referees on this call. I have never in my life ever saw a referee give signals with the ball in his hand. I've never seen that. Eddie Camp, you're on if you want to comment on that. Or I've never seen that in my life. And I'm in the press box and I'm saying to myself, what is going on here? But
Hey, Jim.
Ed, go ahead, Ed.
I've seen plenty of referees that never touch the ball.
Right. Let alone give a signal with the ball in their hand. Thank you. Okay. And Jerry, you're probably chuckling if I know you. So at any rate, folks, the guy's going to give a signal with the ball in his hand, and you can't hear the announcement. I don't think we have the audio. And if we do not have it, that's probably better because somebody might have to call 911 going into, I mean, I'm not trying. The guy he announces holding on the offense, and then he puts the ball in the air and says the game is over. And we all understand that the offensive team scored a touchdown and there has to be an untimed down. But he never makes that announcement. To this day, on February 25th, from December the 14th, the referee has never used the words there'll be an untimed play. So go ahead, Steve, with the video.
More than 4, have 7 or 8 guys there in the end zone.
Okay, now look at this. Okay, now stop it here. Okay, now he announces the game is over. And you see the other officials begin to leave the field. You see the defensive team in jubilation. What you're not going to see here, unfortunately, the Bethel coach, I forget the guy's name, but he broke the world record held by Edwin Moses for sprinting in 100 yards or that. This guy ran from the top sideline. He chased, it was unbelievable. And he even knew that the game cannot end because the result of the play is a touchdown. And obviously the defensive team is going to want the penalty for holding, which in high school, we would go from the 30 back to the 40. Previous spot changed in 2023 by the Federation. And then we actually tack on the extra 15 yards for the number 68 taking his helmet and smashing it onto the ground. So the referee here begins to leave the field. I'm not going to tell you his full name. His first name is Steve. And as I mentioned, the crew is from Ohio. So I'm on the 020. I'm in the press box. And I said, whoa, whoa, whoa. Hey, guys, I'm yelling. The game is not over. The game is not over. And somebody, one of the 7 guys on the field, I don't know who, it doesn't matter, said, yes, it is. It's over. And I'm like, no, don't leave, don't leave. And by this time, people in the press box, to say that there's pandemonium going on is, let's just say that would be entirely accurate. I mean, but everybody's like, what's going on? Oh my God, did we win? It got so bad, folks. And this will be funny. It wasn't at the time. When I look back on it, it is now. The public address announcer actually said these words. He said, ladies and gentlemen, please do not leave because we do not know who won the game and neither do the officials. And that's not good. That is not good. I remind you, this is an NCAA national quarterfinal game. The winning team goes to the Final Four. The losing team goes home. And I'm in the press box trying as inconspicuously as possible, which is impossible, saying, hey, don't go, the game's not over, the game's not over. But they start leaving the field. Okay, Steve, go ahead with the video. Hey, and here we go. We win, we win. Here comes the coach. You see him starting to come over, and he goes out of picture, but pretty soon, all right, he's going after people like you've never, or on and on, on and on. And eventually, okay, look at him. Look at the coach. You kind of get a little judge of him or a little sense of him there. Now he's in a cluster of people, and the film cuts off. And at any rate, this is when the announcer, the PA guy, says, "Don't leave because we don't know who won, and neither do the officials." And as all this is going on, the commissioner, the Susquehanna University is in a league called the Landmark Conference. The commissioner of that league was at the game. It's a female. Here comes, you see the one official coming back. Oh, I better not go home yet. And we got 2 flags he's carrying. I still don't know what that was about. Okay. But this woman, she actually came over to me and she said, Jim, these guys aren't your officials, are they? And I said, no, Katie, they're not. And she said, that's all I need to know. And then she said to me, who wins? I was like, I don't know yet. Okay. I don't know what we're going to do here. All right. So the coach there, you see, is the Susquehanna coach. He's like, well, why are we meeting? I thought the referee said the game was over. Everybody heard him say the game was over. Why are we not allowed to leave? So you see these guys getting together. And let's just stop it here a minute, Steve, okay? If you are an NJFOA official, and to me, it doesn't matter if it's a regular season game or a sectional game, sectional final, every official that's ever lived should know that unless this is a loss of down penalty by the offense, which obviously offensive holding is not, you have to know in your mind and in your heart that we have one more play, an untimed down. And it took a long time. The total time was 5 minutes and 14 seconds and then a second announcement is made, which this doesn't apply to high school, but it's just as well because the guy screwed up that announcement. He said the game is not over because the play does not result in a 10-second runoff. Okay. It has nothing to do with that. Absolutely nothing to do with it. So as all this unfolds, I am literally in the press box and I'm saying to myself, I wonder how fast it's going to take for the officiating industry to know about this, because something like this is not going to be covered. You can't put this under the rug. The world's biggest rug is not big enough for this. It's impossible. So go ahead, Steve, with this, and then I'll fill in what happened after the game in the locker room. Okay. And if you see there's only 5 officials there, okay, 2 guys are still debating whether or not they should come back. Okay, is the game over, isn't it? Now you see the referee reaching for his mic. Okay, the chain crew's coming back on the field. Look at this. This is, I mean, now here's his second announcement, which is also screwed up. Okay, holding offense. Okay, unsportsmanlike offense. And now's when he says, we have another play because it's not a 10-second runoff, but he gives the untimed down signal. Okay, now the field judge is telling the umpire where to enforce the fouls from. In officiating terminology, this is called the ultimate cluster, you know what. Okay, I've never seen a play like this. And frankly, every time I look at this, I say to myself, this could not have happened. Somebody must have come here now. All right, so here's the first penalty to the 30. Then the umpire, like, 15 more, you mean? Okay, here we go. Now we go back to the 45-yard line. Okay, and now we're going to give Bethel College from Minnesota another play. The line judge comes in now because the coach is still saying here, but you said the game is over. Why isn't the game over? I'm taking my team off the field right now. I mean, it's unbelievable. So stop it here, Steve. Okay. So you don't have to put in the chat box, folks, but what do you think the odds are that the team in white threw a 55-yard touchdown pass without a penalty to win this game? If you'd answer 0 or less than that, you're 100% on. All right. I mean, the football gods, look, they had a chance to win. They're not going to score. That's just the way it is. At any rate, the game finally ends. And if you look at the official NCAA report on this, we have to have a thing called the length of game. The game kicked off at 12 o'clock. And the one thing says it ended at 2:43. The other one says it ended at 2:52. All right, so there's a 9-minute gap to run one play is what it really amounts to. And once again, the word cluster, you can figure it out, is nowhere near applicable. Now, the game ends, and this is the backstory to it, and then we'll go back to the PowerPoint for a minute. The game ends, and I'm up in the press box, and I'm like, okay, and I have the radio that the referee had given to me. And I'm saying to myself, this guy lives in Ohio. I got to return this radio, and this is not going to be fun. So I make my way down out of the press box. I get past people screaming and yelling and carrying on around the track. It's probably a good 100-yard walk to the officials' locker room. And as I'm walking there, a lot of the Bethel players are leaving. And to say that they're upset would be highly correct. And there's a lot of cussing, and I mean, kids are crying. It's truly incredible. If I had a presence of mind to do it over, I would have videotaped some of this and probably could have sold it to ESPN and got some royalties from it. But at any rate, I make my way into the field house where I know the officials are. I'm carrying this radio, and I'm just saying to myself, oh my God, what happened here? How bad is it? As I walk down this corridor in the field house, I pass the Bethel, the visiting team locker room. And as long as I live, I will remember a player from Bethel taking his helmet. Picture this, folks. He took his helmet and with 2 hands, he smashed it. He smashed it on his forehead. The blood is everywhere. And this kid is yelling, we didn't lose. We didn't effing lose. We got effing screwed. We won. I've never, it was incredible to me. It was profound. I'm like, oh my God, do these kids want to win or what? I finally make my way into the locker room and I knock on the door and one of the officials opened it and I walked in and I said to the referee, Steve, here's your radio. And I was going to turn around and leave because my job was over as far as the thing. But one of the officials said, "What did you think, Jim?" And I just met him the night before. They invited me to their pregame, which I attended and whatnot. And he said, "What do you think, Jim?" And I said, "If you're asking, I'll share some thoughts with you, but I'm going to tell you now you're not going to like it." And he said, "No, that's okay. We're good." I said, "Okay." I sat down. They all sat down. And I said, "Guys, I'm going to tell you this. As long as you officiate, you will never live this play down. This was a complete, unmitigated disaster. And the rest of your career, this play will stick with you." I actually told them at spring clinics this coming spring, I promise you, people throughout the country will show this play. And the overall theme of it will be what not to do as an official. And I was not profane. I was not inappropriate. But I said, "Guys, this was an absolute disaster." And I thought, and you'll find this funny, I thought I made my feelings very clear. And one guy said, "I got a question." And I said, "Sure." And he said, "Do you think we still have a chance to work a playoff game next week?" And I just, I was like, I actually did say to him, I said, "Let me tell you all this. If you guys worked for me, the question would be, are you having a chance to work next year? Forget about next week." And frankly, they didn't get it. They didn't get it. They have no idea how bad. And as I started going over something about this play, that, somebody had to go in and help the referee. And the fact is that at least two of you thought the game was over and you don't know the rules. One guy took off his uniform, and I don't know if I'm allowed to say, he said, "Fuck this bullshit. I'm not listening to this." And he walked into the shower. That's okay. I mean, that's his prerogative, I suppose. It is what it is. Now, I get back to is that a complete official? Is that the attitude or the mindset or the coachability factor of what we would like in someone? And I continued on, and the referee said to me, "Would I be able to call you on my way home tonight?" I got a 7-hour drive. He lived in a town called Findlay, Ohio. It's near Toledo. That's a long way from Steelers Grove, Pennsylvania. And I said, "Sure." So right there and then, I gave the guy my I think he had my number. But at any rate, uh, they to this day they don't get it. I got a text on January 5th because one of my D3 crews did a national championship stag bowl down in Houston, Texas, and we screwed up a penalty. And this same guy, Steve, sent me a text, and he said, "Tell your referee not to worry about it. It took me 2 days. I still have the text. It took me 2 days to get over what happened at Susquehanna." And I just texted him back and I said, "My guy might not get over it for a lot more than 2 days." Okay. So that's kind of the whole nutshell. Um, uh, at least a lot of it. I texted the national coordinator when I got home that night. I said, "Did you hear what happened yet?" And he texted me, "No." I said, "Okay." The next morning I was in church. He called me 3 times and left me 3 messages. When I got to church, I'm like, "Oh boy." And it was unbelievable. Some of you know the guy I'm talking about, Mark Baltz. He was like, what happened?" He was like speechless. Like, what? So anyway, Steve, can we get back to the PowerPoint? I'll ask you again, everyone. Do those guys genuinely care about their performance? I'm going to guess it would be hard to say yes after that in the aftermath. Okay, Steve. Do you buy into officiating or do you buy out? Do you buy into the group or do you buy out? Do you want to be part of the solution or do you want to be a problem? And everyone on here knows people who buy in, who really are into this, who are dedicated, who are committed, who try to do it right. And sadly, everyone on this call knows people who frankly don't really care too much about officiating. And I got another game. I'm going to get paid again. I can go to the bar and tell everybody I did school X and school Y. But you have to ask yourself, am I going to buy in or buy out? And a complete official buys in, or they buy out. Okay, Ed or Steve? Okay. The late, great Carl Paganelli always taught us you got to take pride in what you're doing. If you take pride in what you're doing, you got a chance to be good. If you don't, you'll never be any good as an official. I think that's very true. Steve, what's your level of enthusiasm? People like, and I'm sure there's others, but people like Jerry Picasio, Bob Masucci, and I know I'm missing hundreds of guys or a lot of guys on here, 169, still have a very high level of enthusiasm to officiate. And in my opinion, you need that. It's just like coaching or playing. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of Rick Pitino, the absolute fantastic college basketball coach right now at St. John's. He's 73 years old. And if you watch him coach in person or on TV, I mean, that guy is still as fired up as he was when he was in his 20s, I'm sure. It's amazing to me. Nick Saban coached a very, very long time uh, at three different major universities and, was 72 when he retired. And part of it was he said, I just don't have it anymore. But the complete official, our level of enthusiasm must be still at a high level. Is it? I think it changes. I think our approach changes. We still got to look forward to it on a Friday night or Saturday afternoon or a Monday afternoon at a JV game or a freshman, whatever it would be. Okay, Steve? Off-season preparation. I'm preaching to the choir because here it is, February 25th. There's 168 human beings on this call living in New Jersey. To me, that's incredibly admirable. And my guess would be largely unprecedented in the country. February 25th, a Tuesday night. Hard to imagine. Again, thank you to each. Go ahead, Steve. How do I handle adversity? Am I resilient? You got to be tough to do this. You got to have mental toughness. But you also have to care to the point where a play like I just showed you, well, you got to, that is never going to happen to me again. Never. I will do whatever I have to make sure I'm not a part of that, whether it's sticking around and not leaving, whether it's knowing the rules, whether it's having enough balls to say to the referee, hey, Steve, that's wrong. That's wrong. We got to do this correctly. Whatever the situation dictates, you have to have that kind of resiliency and mental toughness to be the complete official. Everyone in this call at some point in time has had the choice of stepping up off the ledge or staying in a little shell. I've done both. When I stay in the shell, it's not a good feeling. But every one of us has gone through that. To be the real complete official, if you know something is wrong, you got to speak up about it right then and there. Don't wait till after the game's over. That's no good then. Okay, Steve. Just talked about mental toughness. Somebody once told me officiating is much like a roller coaster. There's a lot of highs, there's a lot of lows, and there's highs and there's lows. And those who are mentally tough somehow find a way to keep going, to have that enthusiasm, to continue to prepare, because it takes all of that. The great basketball coach Bob Knight was fond of saying, everyone has the will to win. The question is, does everyone have the will to prepare to win? I think that statement is most applicable to officiating. Do we have the will to prepare to officiate well, game in and game out, year in and year out? Okay, Steve? The complete official is coachable, has the ability to adapt, is accountable. That's something that in my own life as an official, it took me a long time to understand. When someone is critiquing me, shut up, Jim, and listen. Shut up and pay attention. Even if you don't agree with them, give them that respect, give them that latitude to voice their thoughts. Ultimately, they're probably trying to help you. Okay. I don't think some guys ever learn that. Fortunately, I had a couple mentors that told me if I don't shut up, they're going to smack me in the face. And back then, that worked. No one would say that today. Back then, it worked. and it still stays with me. Your work ethic. How hard do you work at it? I know a lot of officials that really work hard at the avocation of officiating, and they might even do more than one sport. There's nothing wrong with that, certainly. They work hard at it. It's a kind of a year-round thing, and they grind it because any sport at some point becomes a grind. You got to stick with it. You have to understand the big picture. It's not about you. It's not about any individual. It's not about me. It's about the group. It is about the group. Question on the chat box. Once the referee called the game, it would have never gotten to that, Drew. If I was in that game, as soon as that play happens, I'm getting on, saying, hey, we got an untimed down here. We got an untimed down. You kind of prevent that mistake from happening in the first place. If you're not able to do that, and now you hear the announcement, you got to get involved and say, I like the phrase someone taught me a long time ago. They said, let's rethink our thinking. I like that phrase. Let's rethink our thinking. The game's over. Wait a minute. We have a foul by the offense on a scoring play, not involving loss of down. We have to have an untimed down because the clock hits 0. Good question. Thank you, Drew, for that. Okay. We talked about the roller coaster effect. Try to be like a stock that steadily goes up and doesn't have that up and down nature to it. Officials, more than anybody else on the field, we have to have that steady, that consistent, we're in control without being dictators mindset approach. And lastly, folks, if there's nothing else you remember from tonight, if nothing else sticks in your head other than maybe that play, try your hardest to adopt a one play at a time approach. Those of us who played sports, which is I'm sure like 99.99% of the people on here, if not 100%, it is imperative that you have the ability to flip the switch and go to the next play, whether it was good or bad. And I know when I was growing up and playing a lot of basketball, this was before 3-point shots were in vogue, but I hit a long shot at a buzzer to win like a CYO game, and everybody's mobbed me and this and that. And the next game, okay, I mean, I played awful because my head was still thinking I hit the winning shot. This team knows about it. I mean, this kid ate me up both ends of the court. He just kicked my rear end, and that's because my entire approach was wrong. It was terrible, and I had to learn the hard way. But in officiating, one play at a time. You kick a play, it's okay. You call something or don't call something, you think, boy, I'm not sure that way. You got to teach yourself. You got to discipline yourself to move on. And that requires mental toughness. It requires focus and concentration that is not typical of the average human being. That's why it takes a special person to do this well and a special person to become a complete official. Steve? So ask yourself these questions. Are you improving or regressing? No one stays the same. You get better or you get worse as an official. Every one of us. You get better or you get worse. Off-season prep, again, I'll relate to tonight. I think we got 6 more of these. Scott Campbell would know that for certain. We have our preseason clinic on August 2nd in Sayreville, our 4th one in New Jersey. These are all part of, kind of paying the price and being committed and dedicated to being the best you can be. I tell my lovely bride all the time, to be good at this, you got to give up a lot of things. And everybody here, everyone, if you're an official, you automatically give up a lot of things. Maybe a family, whatever, baptism, whatever it would be, or just going out. Whatever. It could be a million different things, but that's part of it. You got to study the rules. Mechanics always change a little bit here and there. They get tweaked. Once again, see our every year Bob Masucci edited NJFOA 6-man manual. Think of how officiating has evolved. When I started out, there was 3 guys at a JV game. Sadly, some schools still have 3, but for varsity, there's only 4. And can you imagine officiating a varsity game today? A good varsity high school football game with 4 officials? I mean, at the end of the day, you'd have 4 less officials. They're all going to quit. Like, what are you kidding? The way the game is played today? Okay. The complete official is always trying to improve his or her judgment and game management skills, which nobody even mentioned those to me until I was pretty long in the game. game management to me matters more than anything else. How do you manage people? How do you manage situations? And we all understand it. Football, like other sports, sometimes coaches get emotional. Fans are always out of their minds. That's just it goes with the territory. But how do you manage a stressful? How do you manage a coach who's going berserk because a holding call took back a touchdown or whatever the scenario can be. This is a very difficult thing if you're going to do it well. Can you do it half-assed? Yeah, you can. In this day and age, we all know every time you walk, oh, there's a shortage of officials. I had an AD tell me in softball, just send me the guys. I don't care if they stink or not. We just want to get the games in. And sadly, I hope officials don't think that way, but maybe sometimes they do. Okay, Steve? Okay. How important is officiating to me? Can you do without it? And at some point in our lives, we're all going to say yes. Do I love officiating? Do I love it? Do I really have a passion for it? Or is it just something I do? You know what? Yeah, I'm out on this Friday night, but don't worry, I'm coming right home after the game. Or on Saturday, I'm going to do 6 different Pop Warner games, and I'll stand at the same position like a statue for 7 hours, and I'll come home with $400 in cash, and I conquered the world. Is that loving officiating? Um, I did some rec basketball this winter, and I worked with a guy on a Sunday afternoon. It was the only game I did that weekend because I'd been away. Long story short, it was like 3 o'clock on a Sunday. He told me it was his 18th game of the weekend between Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday. And I said, why are you telling me that? He goes, oh man, I made 760, whatever, 607, whatever it was. I said, are you any better of an official because of it? And he goes, I never thought about it. I said, that's my point. That's my point. You're doing this for one reason. That's fine. All right. It's America. You want to do it for money? Go do it for money. But please don't think that you're any good because frankly, you stink. Okay? Uh, your attitude, your approach, adaptability, all these things that we kind of alluded to before. And lastly, mentoring. Okay. If you've been around, I see guys on this call, I know they've been around. If you know what you're talking about, mentor other folks, pay it forward. That's something, without really getting personal, that's something I've always found incredibly inspiring about Eddie Camp because he pays it forward. Not a lot of people are willing to do that. And people like Ed have served as inspirations to many people, myself included. Carl Paganelli was like that. It's a neat thing, and we're all ultimately in it together. Okay, Steve? The complete official, checking some boxes here. Eliminate avoidable mistakes. Think about that play I showed you and ask yourself this question. Was any of that avoidable? And you'll answer yes so many times, your mouth will say yes automatically. Okay? Somebody just, all of it was, that's correct. Dwayne, that you are correct. All of that was avoidable. Challenge yourself to be your best. Sometimes you get to a game and the other guys don't really care too much. Does that mean you don't work hard? I hope not. I hope not. The great Willie Mays, who was my all-time favorite baseball player, once said, even when you don't feel your best, you owe it to your team and the game to play as hard as you can that day. I love that statement because it's true. Even if you're not and you don't feel your best, you owe it to your team and the game to play your hardest that day. We should all be so lucky to think like that. Okay. Honest feedback. Are you willing to accept constructive criticism, comments? That's what I call them. Constructive comments. I don't like the word criticism. I had a supervisor one time. I did a game at Yale University, the Yale Bowl. I thought, man, this is neat. It's huge. And that was one of the most decrepit stadiums that I've ever been in my life. The field, you and I have been in cow pastures in which the turf itself was better. And I'm not kidding about that. But at any rate, I loved being there. I thought it was great. The game ended. The supervisor came in, and the supervisor was a very crusty, ornery, arrogant, obstinate person. And he walked in the locker room, and in particular, he said, I was the referee. He said to the field judge, he said, I should have fired you at the clinic. They were the first words out of his mouth. And I mean, it got everybody's attention. I'm not advocating that. I'm not supporting that approach. It did get everyone's attention, but he was not able to communicate. He made it too personal. And I hope in my own life I've learned that that's not a good approach to take when guys are busting rear end and girls are busting rear end as officials. Okay? Strive to get better always. Stay positive as often as possible. My three absolutes to my officials in the Centennial Landmark and Sprint League: be on time, pay attention to detail, and do the best you can. If you do those three things, it's hard to ask anything more, but you better do those three things. Okay. And if you're not, then we're probably going to have a conversation that might not be the most pleasant of your existence. Okay. Go ahead, Steve. Okay. So as we wind this down, and we have one more kind of video to show you. All right. The complete official understands that he or she is under more scrutiny each and every year. That's not going to change. When I did a rec basketball game 2 days ago on a Sunday at a middle school gymnasium, nice place. There's some guy up there like videotaping his grandson playing a 7th and 8th grade basketball game on a Sunday afternoon. You think that happened 20 years ago? I don't. Maybe it would have. I don't think so. I don't know, but I sure don't think so. Okay. More and more expectations are placed on us. Think of all the things you got to do in NJFOA, right? You got to do a concussion test every year. You got to pay dues. I'm sure there's other things we've had to do over time that are escaping my mind right now. But certainly, if you're a new cadet, you got to go to these meetings and then take a test. I mean, all those things, that's part of the deal. That's what you sign up for. Okay. I think officials today, in some ways, get less instruction and less direction than in years past. All right, here's your shirt, here's your license, go out and referee. What do you mean go out and referee? Okay, that happens today. That never was the case years ago. Never. Okay. Seemingly less black and white. Well, it was close to a hold, but maybe it wasn't. That was close to defensive pass interference, but maybe it wasn't. Well, the guy was close to being in motion illegally, but maybe. I think officials learn best when they're taught to shrink the gray. Things are black and white in the officiating world. If you give any person too much gray, you're going to be extremely inconsistent. I think shrinking the gray helps us be more consistent from game to game, crew to crew, etc. There's no doubt, folks, the industry has changed dramatically the last few years. There's no doubt about it in a myriad of ways, too many to mention. But you have to be able to adapt. That's part of being a complete official. When I first started officiating, I once did a JV game at a school called Bucknell University for $25 on a Monday night in November. It snowed, it sleeted. I loved being there, but I had to drive home almost 3 hours and get up at 5:30 in the morning to go teach school. You know what I did? And it was way before cell phones. I drove about halfway back to a school I taught at, Lehighton Area High School. I called my wife from a payphone. I told her I'm staying in a hotel tonight. There's no way. The road's this. I'm tired. I'm this. And I didn't even go home. I stayed in a hotel. I got up early. I drove to school and I drove back home. She was happy I wasn't there, but that's neither here nor there. But I did that. I'm not so sure if I asked somebody in our staff to go to Bucknell for $25 today, I hope they would look at me and say, "Are you nuts? Are you out of your mind?" Times have changed. Okay, Steve? So the last part of this is, why do you officiate? At some point in each year in the Centennial Landmark meeting, I ask every official to take out a notepad, or in this day, their AirPads, and just type me up a sentence. Why do you officiate? Okay, I like being an official because I like being a part of something. I like subjugating myself for the betterment of a group. Okay. I think it makes you a better person. And as a coach taught me, a coach who I have the highest respect for, he said, ultimately, Jim, coaches, players, and officials are the last keepers of the game that there are. And I love that statement. And every time I go on a field, I try to think about that. That's why we'd like to do things right. We'd like to do things with integrity. Okay, Steve? The last thing Steve's going to pull up is a little, okay, Steve, the video I had you pull up, right? So,
Yep.
okay, so this, I want to show this again on Friday. We'll have a few folks there that'll see this a second time, but it's worth it. So, what I'm going to show you here, I think encapsulates the complete official in a broader sense. So, what you're seeing here, this is a player who just completed his final year of eligibility, just as those kids at Bethel did on December 14th. Now, this is from January 20th, and this is a kid who played at Notre Dame. This is right after they lost to Ohio State in the national championship game, and he was a captain. And a reporter asked him, "So, what is it that you're going to miss about playing, whether it's at Notre Dame or any other school, high school, anything?" And Steve, go ahead and run this, and then we'll wrap it up.
I think when you look at the 6 years I've been here, what I remember is the people. From when I was a small, underclassman, just trying to learn the ways, looking at a Drew White, a Bo Bauer, to being a guy, running with my boys and JD and Marist, and then this year coming back and feeling like I had a chip on my shoulder and getting to meet, amazing guys like Riley coming in and just kind of go on the journey we went on. And to have Coach Freeman, yeah, it's about the people. It's the people that's made this place different, and it just shows where this program's heading. The people in this building are the best, absolute best.
That's good, Steve. So, everyone, those were now. Here's a kid. He's probably 24 years old. He might even play in the NFL, and I'm sure this past year he made a lot of money in college with NIL. But I think that really shows what football means to a lot of people. And let us never forget, without players, there's no game. But we are an integral part of the great game. And to be a complete official, I hope looking at that kid helps you understand how important the great game of football is to so many people. And I think we should all feel humbled and privileged to play a small role in it. So we're at 8:28. That's almost an hour. If there's any chat things, certainly feel free. I want to certainly thank Steve Citro and Scott Campbell for allowing me to make this presentation tonight. I really appreciate that. And again, thanks to everyone who gave up a Tuesday night in February. I hope I get to cross paths with you, each of you, at some point now, or maybe at Saraville in August. So good night, everybody. And once again, thanks so much for your time.
Jim, I want to thank you for your presentation tonight. It's a nice little change from showing plays all the time. It's gets everybody a little grounded, I think, to where they need to be. And we appreciate you putting that together. The next training session will be on March 11th. We'll have two during the month of March, one during the month of April, one during the month of May, and two in June to close out the season. So the next session, May 11th, will be presented by Bill Sarteville, and then March 11th, and then March 25th will be Mark Bitar and Ed Camp. So we got some good presentations next month, and looking forward to it. Just a couple things before we close out this evening. As Jim mentioned, the clinic will be registration open May 20th, and that clinic in Saraville is on August 2nd. So make sure you look out for that and mark your calendars, free it up. And last but not least, we'll send this email out again probably next week or so. All mechanics suggestion changes that are under consideration will be taken up until March 31st. You should have received it. You previously should have received an email for that. We'll send it out again. It's a Google Doc. We've gotten some good ones so far, but we'd like to see everybody participate that has an interest in, recommending a change. So look for that again next week. We'll resend that to everybody. So on that note, I want to thank Jim again for his presentation. Of course, Steve helping with the PowerPoint and film. So good job tonight. And we had 170 people at a max on here tonight. So that was a good turnout, like Jim said, on a Tuesday night. So we appreciate everybody taking the time, and just going to say have a good evening, and then we'll see you in a couple weeks, and stay safe. Thank you.